Well, happy Easter. My name is Father Lin Nguyen from the Parish of St. Francis and John, a pastor of St. Francis and John in Georgetown, Kentucky. The intention of this video is try to explain or documentary of an interesting phenomenon that happened to us during Easter, especially Easter Vigil and Easter Sunday morning. What I present before you here, this is known as the Chrism oil we receive from our Bishop John Stowe on the Chrism Mass. And then this is a 3 bottle that we receive from the diocese, and that was filled into this container. Uniquely this year, because in the preparation for receiving a lot of confirmation, almost 40 people, and I have a tendency to read the fullness of the symbol of the confirmation of the Holy Spirit. I usually pour this oil on people's head, and there's a lot of that. So in case that we don't have enough, I extend to the diocese to ask for additional Chrism oil, just prepare for all those celebrations. So the diocese allowed to loan this much, almost a gallon full of the Chrism oil being consecrated by Bishop John at the Chrism Mass last week. So the phenomenon that explained here, that this container contained, that's only 3 bottles that fit into this crude. And at Easter Vigil, I received 7-8 people that joined through confirmation, and I used this oil poured on their head for the gift of the Holy Spirit. And I never thought of it, so we put it away. On Sunday morning, I did Mass at John Hill Chapel, a place that we have one single celebration in English, and while the Hispanic prepare for a confirmation that takes place in our new property outdoor at Cordon. So the people take all of it, include this crude of the Chrism oil with them. And outside of the celebration, I myself would use the same crude, same technique. I pour oil over 38 children to receive them into the church full communion with the gift of the Holy Spirit. The phenomenon interesting for me, because as I brought this oil back with my assistants, so I was preparing to use this oil, the extra from the diocese, to fill in this container, so I can return that to the bishop, to the diocese. But Lord and behold, when this bottle would take out of the basket, placed on the counter like this, and I look at it, it's full. Had never been touched. I did some proper investigation. Some of the head sacristan has never touched this at all, our deacons, and I have not indication anybody has attempted to tamper with this or add more to it itself. So this documentary is further investigation to see an interesting phenomenon that may present it to a bishop and see what he thinks. But I want to take this opportunity to use this camera to record this event and perhaps develop something interesting. But for me, this event carries a significance. It might not mean a whole lot to the miracle world that taken all over the world. But for us specifically as St. Francis and John, we are undertaking a transition, very critical. We are leaving this sanctuary. This is probably the last time we celebrate the Easter joy here, because we are moving to a new location. This church was established around 1919. And now, for the first time, this last time, I'm sure there's a lot of anxious in everyone, parishioner. Those who've been here for a long time, there was anxiousness, sadness included. But perhaps for me, these wonderful miracles that Jesus and God would tell our community, there are plenty of filling in. God will bless. And the Spirit of the Holy Spirit is much more powerful and drawn us together, community of faith. And the miracle here is not the magnificence of this mystery, but it's more providential. God conveyed to Francis and John community a meaning of comfort. God will fill in all the emptiness, all the fear and doubt, and trust in God. For the chrism in itself, the gift of the Holy Spirit.
The cruets that are used for the 3 different oils, each year I drain them out of the old oils and save them all mixed together. I use some of them for the Saturday evening Easter Vigil in preparing the new fire, and then the rest is poured into the ground next to the church, the old oils. Then I take the cruets and they're cleaned and washed, prepared to receive the new oils that are consecrated at the Chrism Mass by the bishop. And once the oils are received, they're brought here to the church, and then the oils, I go over each of the 3 different oils, so the 3 cruets. The smaller cruets hold the oil of the sick and the oil of the catechumens. I separate the oils that we receive from the diocese at the Chrism Mass. I separate them according to which cruet they belong in. I then pour the oils into the prospective cruets, and the last oils that I pour in is the Chrism oil, and I double check each cruet to make sure they get the proper oils in them. There were 3 cruets or bottles of the Chrism oil this year, and that's all we originally had from that Chrism Mass, and they were poured into the cruet here.
Why the cruet for the Chrism oil is so big compared to the other 2?
Okay, very little is used in the other oils, the oil of the sick and the oil of catechumens. However, if anybody ever witnessed the way Father Lynn anoints the recipient when they are confirmed, he doesn't just make a sign of cross on the forehead. It is poured on the head, and the oil comes down onto them, and then he will sometimes rub over their head onto their forehead. And there was quite a bit of oil, and each recipient that is confirmed is given a towel and to get the oil from going into their eyes. And so we need quite a bit of oil. And normally we do order from the diocese quite a bit more oil before the Chrism Mass so that they know we are going to get a lot more oil. Just like I did Holy Thursday. That's 1. Two. Three.
The mystery.
As we all go up front, and the people that we're sponsoring go up front, and then you stand behind your sponsor, and Father Lynn will go through and confirm them. But first he called Father Derek to come and help him. So Father Derek went first and touched everybody's head and said the blessing and went through, and then Father Lynn came up behind him. And of course, being behind the lady that I was sponsoring, you know, you can peep out a little bit, but as everybody knows, Father Lynn is quite generous with the oil. He never pours just a drop or two. So I could see his arm going like that, and especially on a couple of people. Before he started, actually, he said, "These people need the Holy Spirit." And then he started to pour the oil. And I noticed a couple, they were married, they're both coming into the church at the same time. And he really doused them pretty good. I mean, I could see it just running down their face as fast as they could wipe it, and it would just run again. And so he's definitely didn't hold the oil back, the Chrism oil.
Well, anyone that really knows Father Lynn always knows that he's very generous with the oil. And in fact, we bring towels to help them absorb some of that oil, because it ends up pouring down the face, down the gown. We also talk to our candidates and warn them that, hey, you might get oil on your outfit and stuff, or your gown. If you're wearing a nice dress or, you know, a nice shirt and tie, just be aware that it could happen.
We use more than the average parish, so we normally bring more back. I went back to the sacristy after the Mass, and there were several people back there, and I told them I need extra oil. And they said, "Here, take one of these." So I took an extra. They had these little pouches that have the oils in them, little 4-ounce bottles, so I took an extra one. So when I came back to St. John's, and Father Lynn said, "This is not enough." So that's how we came to have the amount of oil that we had. He called the bishop's secretary and went the next day and picked up that gallon jug of oil.
He was very generous with the oil. He poured a lot.
Father always put a lot, like he's pour a lot to the kids' head, and he has so many. I can think maybe he did put 20 kids, you know, maybe over 20 kids that oil. And he's not like putting a little bit, you know. I don't know if you noticed, but he put a lot. And but by the time we done with that, he was bless all the kids with this oil, and I put in the plastic bag, plastic box that I have. It was not even the half of the bottle, okay? Not even half. I remember that because I put a towel by my husband. I said, "It's not a lot of oil. It's not going to spill over the car, okay? Don't worry." And well, and when we went back to the church, and Father asked me, "Lisette, what is the oil? What is the oil?" And I said, "Hey, Father, relax. Francisco is going to bring the oil. It is in the plastic box." And suddenly, when we give it to Father, it was not like maybe it was 3/4 of the oil, and a little, I can tell maybe a little bit more, and. It was curious because Father Lynn said it is a miracle.
You know, I just was thinking about, well, maybe Jesus is giving us his blessing before we switch out here to Cardone.
There's lots of reasons that this parish needed a sign, and we were given one. Now, whether we choose to believe it, that's up to us. But it's as God's way usually is. It's not overpowering. It's, "Here, take a look at this. Now you know where this came from." So, yes, I do believe it was a miracle.
I was pretty amazed because it's like a miracle. Jesus was there. He was in there. He was poured. And I'm just really surprised that it was still full after so many people got confirmed.
This is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, the Holy Spirit abundantly here, divine interventions here. It's a beautiful thing. I'm honored that I got to witness this and not to only be at one Mass, but to be see all 40 of them, to go through with it, it was no doubt in my mind.